he whispered, pinning me down. Your waist is too slender? Tell me, are you really a man? For 10 years I've served the Emperor as his loyal Chancellor, hiding the secret that I am a woman. But tonight, his gaze has changed. Is he hunting a traitor, or is he losing his heart to a lie? My good brother was on top of me, forcing me to admit I was a woman. Brows like distant hills, skin like rich cream, and that slim waist so easy to hold. How dare you say you're not a woman? Pinned beneath him, my ears burned, my face flushed, my heart pounding like a drum. Yet I didn't dare move the wrong way. Adrian often told me that in private, we could call each other brothers. But I wasn't foolish enough to truly treat a king as a brother. The wine at Springbree's house was excellent. After barely half a gin, he was drunk. All restraint vanished. He threw me to the floor, his eyes hazy, his words a mess. Had he mistaken me for one of his concubines? Your Majesty, I'm Julian, your right Chancellor. Adrian lifted his phoenix eyes and met mine. I had to admit he'd inherited fine eyes from his mother consort. Drunk like this, he'd lost his usual cold aloofness, and somehow looked even more captivating. I couldn't read what was in his gaze. All I could sense was the peach blossom brew on his breath, sweet enough to make my skin prickle. My breathing grew heavier. Adrian's throat bobbed. His eyes lowered, as if lingering on my lips. I didn't know why, but I understood at once what he meant to do. The alcohol sobered me instantly. I raised a hand and shoved him away hard, then knelt to the side. Emperor, you're drunk. Adrian lay on the floor and laughed softly. This wine really is something. Pity it's been laced with something filthy. I jolted. What do you mean? Adrian got up and flung the window open. The night wind hit me, clearing my head. When he turned back, much of the drunkenness had faded from his eyes. The palace is filthy. It has nothing to do with jewels. With my hands hidden in my sleeves, I felt my pulse. I understood at once. If an urgent report hadn't kept me in the palace, the one drinking with him would have been some concubine from the rear palace. Carry out today's arrangements according to your plan. We'll discuss what follows after Prince Chi enters the palace, Adrian said coldly. He was completely himself again. I knew it was time to leave. I rose, kowtowed, and withdrew from the imperial study. The front palace had just been thrown into turmoil. Adrian had taken the crown and hastily ascended the throne. The rear palace was full of newly selected women, and the empress's seat was still vacant. No wonder they were anxious. Warming wine wasn't harmful to the body. It was often used as bedroom amusement. But today it had nearly made ruler and minister lose all propriety. With Adrian's temper, this would not end well. I lifted the sedan curtain. Rowan, my jade pendant is missing. Go into the palace and ask Eunuch Lee if he's seen it. Rowan went at once. Not long after I returned to my residence, the news arrived. Eunuch Lee says he hasn't seen your pendant, but Consort Beauty from Bellbrook Palace was also near the imperial study today. He'll send someone to ask her tomorrow. Consort Beauty? My heart lurched. Anyone could die, except her. In my panic, I didn't even bind my chest. I threw on an outer robe and rode hard for the palace. But before I reached the palace gates, I saw flames clawing up into the sky from the northwest corner. Too late. At the end of Riverfront Street was the Way River. Along the riverbank, pleasure houses stood facing one another, north and south. Today I wore white. I flicked a white jade fan in my hand, looking like some carefree gentleman. As I walked the street, hands tugged at me from both sides. Red-robed singing girls on one side, blue-robed male courtesans on the other. By the time I reached the end of the street, I turned and entered Southwind House. Behind me came a courtesan's sigh. Such a handsome young man. What a pity. The owner of Southwind House, Jasper, had once been a famous courtesan himself. Now that he was older, he ran the place. It's been a while, young Master Jules. Leo has been waiting for you. I smiled and went in without hesitation. Tilting my head, I saw Leo on the stage playing a new piece. Bravo. After a run of strings, someone shouted especially loud. Then, like a fool, he tossed a huge gold ingot onto the stage. I turned to see which tasteless idiot it was, and saw a familiar figure. Cold sweat broke out across my back. Heavens, why was he here? Jasper's voice came from behind me. Tonight, only Finn can keep you company. Leo's been booked by that lord. My legs went weak. I nearly sank to my knees. So you never go to the rear palace because this is where you've been going? When I pushed the door open, Adrian was pouring wine and drinking alone. He looked up, saw it was me, and sprang to his feet. "Jules, why are you here?" I stormed over and jabbed a finger at his nose. "You still have the nerve to ask? Tell me, what are you doing here?" Adrian looked guilty. He stammered for a long while, then straightened and put on an emperor's air. "I haven't asked you yet. What are you doing here?" Shameless. In the past, I would have punched him already, but now I forced myself to swallow my anger. I heard Western frontier spies have been active in this area. I arranged to meet an inside contact here. Adrian froze. After a long moment, his mood brightened for no reason, and he started acting like a scoundrel again. "Right. I heard about it too, so I came to check." He'd heard nothing. I remembered the day the Grand Tutor died. He'd held the two of us and lectured us earnestly, telling Adrian to keep the court clean and the realm steady, telling me to stay loyal and assist him. Adrian had cried and sworn to heaven. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Seeing my face darken, Adrian wiped the grin off and turned pitiful instead, grabbing my arm. "Jules, actually, I'm ill." Adrian said he was sick. Probably some fondness for men. He even suspected I'd infected him. I was furious. The only thing I regretted was that I didn't have the right tools. Otherwise, I would have made him understand on the spot what a deep infection really meant. A commotion rose outside. When I opened the door, Jasper was standing there. "Don't worry, young Master Jules. It's just the official's monthly inspection. It's not good to go out right now. But if you shut the door and get on with business, they usually won't barge in." Jasper knew who I was. He was warning me not to show my face. But he didn't know there was someone behind me who absolutely couldn't be seen. "What business?" Adrian, as if nothing were wrong, pinched a grape and popped it into his mouth. My anger flared all over again. I infected him? Fine. I grabbed Adrian by the collar and slammed him onto the bed. He struggled. I swung a leg over and straddled him. I saw his pupils tremble. "Jules, you..." "Shh. If you don't want to be dragged out and sung about across the whole world, stay quiet." Adrian actually shut up. But before I could feel proud, my vision swayed, my body turned, and he had flipped me beneath him. "You..." "Shh." Adrian shamelessly held my hands down and pressed his mouth to my ear. "They're coming." "Come on, cry out once. Let me hear it," the madman said. When I was young, I entered the palace as a companion student. Among all the princes, Adrian was the youngest and the most mischievous. Back then, he picked up plenty of bad habits from the second young master of the Marquise's household, young Master Chi. The first thing was stripping my clothes. Boys that age seemed especially fond of yanking off other people's clothes. There was no malice, it was just fooling around. But I was different. If they stripped the Chi family's illegitimate son, it was only humiliation. If my secret was found, I would die. That day, I was ready to fight to the death. Luckily, Prince Chi happened to pass by and shouted them into stopping. Adrian had always been wild and unruly. The Grand Tutor used to say any prince would look more the part of an emperor than he did. Yet he was the only one who survived and became the emperor. Sneaking out of the palace, visiting Southwind House, and now pinning the Chancellor of a realm beneath him while spouting filthy talk. Any one of these would make the late emperor kick his coffin lid open. If you want someone to cry out, you do it. My skin is thick. I'm not afraid they'll come in and laugh, I said. I turned my face away. If anyone barged in, the one humiliated would be him. Adrian propped himself up slightly, resting his head on an elbow. Boring. If Leo were here, that'd be better. My fist tightened again. I silently recited 6 characters of a calming mantra. After a moment, I saw him staring blankly at the red candles. The teasing in his eyes was gone. Only a lonely chill remained. "Does Consort Beauty have to die?" I asked softly. Adrian didn't move. "Do you even need to ask?" "I know Prince Chi didn't send her here with good intentions, but it's not right to touch her now." Adrian's eyelids drooped. "Oh? Then tell me, right, Chancellor, when would it be right?" I didn't know, but I did know that if Consort Beauty died now, all the leads we'd drawn out in the capital through her would fall apart. Prince Chi would grow suspicious. It would do the bigger plan no good. As a minister, I should have advised a ruler. But as Jules, I couldn't say a single word. That mid-autumn festival, the moon was bright and nations came to pay tribute. It should have been a joyous scene, ruler and people sharing moonlight together. Instead, it became a national mourning. Every street in the capital city ran with blood. The dynasty collapsed. The full moon was veiled in red mist. "I know you hate him," I said. "So do I. Adrian, the dying empire is still here. And so am I." Adrian finally looked at me, then suddenly laughed. An atmosphere that had been solemn for the space of half a cup of tea vanished in an instant. "Jules, that night we both drank that wine. You stayed in the hall until late. And in the second half of the night, you even sent someone to ask about your personal jade pendant. What? Did you just have to let her spread some filthy nonsense before you'd be satisfied?" I choked. In my haste, I'd made up an excuse, and I hadn't noticed he'd caught so much. "Relax. A mere consort beauty won't affect anything. I know what I'm doing." Hearing that, I finally felt at ease. He might be a mess, but he was reliable when it mattered. "As long as the rear palace has no empress, it'll stay absurd," I added. "Crown an empress. Jules, you know how those women got into the palace. Tell me, who should I crown?" "Don't ask me that. If I knew, I'd have submitted a memorial already. I was just complaining." Looking across court and realm, "The only one fit for the post is you," he said. "Me? What nonsense was he spouting now?" "Emperor, you're joking." "I'm not. Unless the empress comes from the Anne family, no one will be convinced. Jules, if you had a sister, I wouldn't be in this bind." That much was true. "So Jules, you bear responsibility for this." That was pure bullying. The noise outside died down. I tried to get up, but Adrian stubbornly pinned my leg. "When you were little, I thought you looked like a girl. Mother said it was common to mistake children, like that illegitimate Chi boy. He was delicate and soft as a kid, but look at him now. He became a general and grew black hair all over, but you never change. Why? I take after my mother. It doesn't mean I have to grow rough with age. Look at Leo and Finn. They're no better than me." Adrian kept staring at me, strangely serious. His face already resembled his mother consort's. In imperial yellow, he looked cold and majestic. Now in black clothes with red lotus blooms beneath red gauze curtains and red candles, he looked almost eerie. The moment I shifted my gaze away, Adrian's hand reached for my face. My whole body went rigid. His cold fingers slid down my cheek, brushed my neck, and stopped at my collar. "Jules, we're both men anyway. How about you take it off and let me see?" "I'll take mine off too. You won't lose out. What do you say?" I let out a soft sigh, keeping my voice even. "Emperor, did you forget what you did when you were little? Stripping my clothes?" Adrian froze. Then, resentfully, he let go. 10 years ago, one morning, the second young master of the Chi family was found sleeping at the city gate for some reason. He was completely naked, and beneath him was what looked like his own filth. Everyone who went out early that day was treated to the sight. Even now, people pass around a motivating tale that the battle-famous king of the northern frontier had once been nothing but a fool. As for Adrian, to this day he panicked at the mention of snakes. In his bedchamber, things like hemp ropes were forbidden. "I've never seen anyone more petty than you," he said through clenched teeth. I took the chance to roll away and get off the bed. "I won't disturb the Emperor's pleasures. I still have official business to handle." Adrian lay on his side, his posture bold, indecently alluring. "What, you're not looking for your spy?" "No hurry." After all that chaos, even the dumbest spy would have sprouted wings and flown off. Adrian didn't make things hard for me. He waved me away. Not long after I returned to the residence, I received a secret report from my inside line. At the same time, a sealed letter from Prince Chi arrived. On the envelope was a painting drawn by his own hand. I stared at that streak of red and didn't move for a long time. It was late winter then. 1,000 cold plum blossoms dotted the dawn horn's call, and east of the tower, a message of spring was painted into being. In Southwind House, Adrian sat in the room. A chill, murderous air surrounded him. There was no trace of the debauched playboy from earlier. After a moment, someone pushed the door open, entered, and dropped to the floor, not daring to raise his head. Adrian set down his cup and drawled, "Do you know what happens when you deceive the Emperor?" The man on the floor shuddered and bowed even lower. "I wouldn't dare. I eat the Emperor's pay and bear the Emperor's worries. I feared something might happen to you, so I risked my life to offer this advice." Adrian lifted the empty cup and stretched out a hand. Beside him, Eunuch Li, disguised, immediately refilled it. Deputy Prefect. What the right Chancellor wished to meet was only his inside contact from the western frontier, Eunuch Li said gently. The man kneeling there was none other than Ethan, the Deputy Prefect of Jingzhou. It was my failure to investigate, Emperor. Please forgive me. I received word that the spy had been in close secret contact with Prince Qi, so I dared to report it. I deserve death. The moment Prince Qi left his mouth, Adrian's cup froze midair. Only after a long pause did he set it back on the table. Look up. Ethan slowly raised himself. The instant he met those icy eyes, he flinched and dropped his gaze again. Adrian stared at Ethan, lost in thought. The newly appointed prefect of Jingzhou sent me a visiting card. I told Rowan to return the courtesy, and he did so, reluctantly. This man really has no sense. He sends visiting cards far too often. Anyone would think he's actually your relative. What back door did you open for him? Don't talk nonsense. Ethan solves cases swiftly and fears no powerful family. He deserves the post. My lord, I saw him from afar that day. He does look a bit like you. Could he really be an Anri? And family relation? There are countless people in the world who resemble one another. Don't say it again. I took off my hat and handed it to him. Have Hazel prepare water. Rowan went. Perhaps because the weather had turned cold, I'd been tired and drowsy lately. After returning home, I bathed and went to bed early. I took off my outer robe, then unwrapped the layers of cloth binding my chest. Once the restraint was gone, even breathing felt easier. This was the most comfortable moment of my day. But when I looked down, I frowned again, uneasy. The cold had improved my appetite. I'd eaten a bit more, and they'd grown again. Binding was even more stifling now. I didn't know when this life would end. And if I left, could that bastard manage on his own? With his temper, he might truly become a tyrant. Then, when I went below, the late emperor and my father would surely grab my ear and scold me. I wouldn't have a moment's peace. Depressed, I sank into the water until only half my face remained above the surface. After a while, I blew a bubble. The door suddenly pushed open. A gust of cold air slipped through the screen. I startled and shot upright in the tub, reaching for my clothes. Jules, I've gotten a fresh jar of fine wine. Hurry and bring out the luminous cup I bestowed on you. Let's. Adrian came around the screen, carrying the chill of early autumn with him. He froze in place, staring at me without blinking. The rest of his words died in his throat. Strictly speaking, Adrian had only seen my wet head. There was no time to dress. Fast as I was, I leapt onto the bed and disappeared into the canopy. I left only my head showing as I watched him. In my panic, clean clothes were scattered all over the floor. My face was flushed and I was breathing hard. So Adrian looked at me, then at the suspicious doo-doo on the floor, and finally at the tightly drawn bed curtains around me. His ears went red in an instant. My heart sank. I understood what he was thinking. He probably thought I'd been occupied. My minister, what refined tastes, going to bed so early. I glanced at the window. It was true, the sky wasn't fully dark yet. Great debauchery in broad daylight. Any image of purity, restraint, upright virtue, gone. By the time I finished tidying myself and ran to the main hall, Adrian was gone. Only a jar of wine remained on the table. Fair enough. Bursting into a minister's home and seeing that sort of thing was awkward. Rowan and Hazel were kneeling on the ground, trembling. It's not your fault. If the emperor ordered no announcement, who would dare disobey? It's fine. Go do your work. They rose shakily and left. I walked over, broke the seal, and a rich fragrance spilled out at once. Yes, it was excellent wine. The next day, word came from the palace. The emperor had spent the night in Consort Jade's chambers. After that, he showed her favor again and again. When news arrived that Consort Jade had been promoted to Noble Consort Jade and would temporarily manage the 6 palaces, my cold finally eased a little. The situation at court shifted rapidly with Noble Consort Jade's favor. And in the western frontier, a conflict finally broke out. Small but not trivial. The emperor was truly alone. For negotiations under imperial order, there was no candidate more suitable than me. So before Adrian even issued a command, I volunteered. 10 li outside the city, the long pavilion stood under strict guard. On the square table inside, parting wine filled the cups. Since that day, we hadn't met in private. Perhaps the border situation was dire, or perhaps sorrow clung to us. Either way, there was no awkwardness in the pavilion. The road ahead is long, Take good care of yourself. Those western frontier brutes are cunning. Keep your wits about you in everything, Adrian said, raising his cup. I accept the order. Thank you for your majesty's concern, I replied respectfully, taking the wine. Adrian's mood dimmed. Then, as if he'd recalled something, he gave a cool, bitter smile. If only you really were a woman, I smiled on cue. Yes. If I were a woman, I could marry and have children without worry. I wouldn't have to fear border raiders or join factional struggles at court or be suspected by a king. Unfortunately, I am the Anne family's only son. Only an Anne could rebuild the old forces. Only an Anne could steady the realm in chaos. Otherwise, how could he sit securely on this throne? So Julian could only be male, the dying empire's right chancellor, and the blade in the emperor's hand. Emperor, noble consort Jade's maternal family isn't powerful, but their reputation is upright. For 3 generations they've served as civil officials. No faults is merit. In my view, she is a good choice for empress. In truth, it would be much the same whoever it was. He might as well choose the one he favored. At least the rear palace would be calmer. Adrian's face was still as water. After a long silence, he said, I understand. For some reason, he seemed even less pleased. I could never read his mind. Luckily, I might not need to anymore. The wine you sent that day really was superb. I couldn't resist and drank half a jar by myself. I sealed the rest and buried it under the peach blossom tree. If you ever want it, remember to dig it up from under that tree. He didn't reply. The time had come. I rose, performed a full kneeling salute, and turned to leave. Jules, Adrian's voice was soft with a hint of choking. I heard it, but I didn't turn back. Julian didn't need to leave. Only the right chancellor had to go, and one man was enough. Euron Hall had been basking in unrivaled glory these past few days. People came daily to pay their respects and curry favor. So many you couldn't begin to count. Consort Jade wore a smile that never seemed to fade. But today, she flew into a rage. After Adrian returned to the palace, he didn't go to the inner quarters. He went straight to the imperial study and didn't even summon dinner. So she brought a bowl of lotus seed porridge she'd simmered herself and hurried over, only to be stopped by Eunuch Lee. The emperor was busy. She could accept that. Yet when she reached the corner and glanced back, she saw someone carrying a wine jar and walking straight into the imperial study. The man wore white, tall and slender. For a moment, she thought her eyes were deceiving her. Her senior maid Ivy murmured, "That's Ethan, the prefect Jingzhou. His looks and build are very much like the right chancellor Anne." She remembered that day, too. She had finally managed to get the emperor to come to her hall, yet he drank all night and babbled nonsense all night. The kind of nonsense that would cost heads if a single sentence ever got out. She'd trembled, certain her days were numbered. And then she was made consort Jade. She was afraid, she hated it, and she was full of hope. Hope that the emperor truly liked her. Hope that right Chancellor Anne would simply vanish. Heaven had finally opened its eyes. Her wish had come true. And now Ethan appeared out of nowhere. Consort Jade spat out a furious curse, startling the little maid drying her hair. The girl's hand slipped and yanked away the outer robe draped over Consort Jade's shoulders. Her pale arm was exposed. At once the maid saw the glaring vermilion mark. She threw herself to the floor and begged for mercy, kowtowing again and again. Only after a long while did Consort Jade's voice sound. "Drag her out." Inside the imperial study, wine jars were strewn across the floor. Adrian sat on the steps, robes in disarray. Ethan drained the last of his cup and tossed it aside. Face flushed, he stood. "You're emperor. Look at me too, will you?" Adrian slowly opened his eyes. Ethan lifted a hand and undid his outer robe, letting it slide to the floor. Then he loosened the ties of his inner garment. Step by step he moved closer, a face strikingly like Jules's, his eyes brimming with adoration. "Am I really that unbearable?" Adrian suddenly smiled. He crooked a finger at him. "Come here." The journey west was long. Along the way, my cold came and went, never truly improving. It took the convoy a full month and a half to reach Liangzhou. 30 miles outside the city, the welcoming procession was already waiting. I stepped down from the carriage, properly dressed. When I looked up, it wasn't the Liangzhou prefect. It was an old acquaintance. Prince Qi, Victor, stood there empty-handed. In brocade and a fine sash, he still looked gentle as jade. My heart lurched. I hurried forward to salute. "How could I trouble you to come in person?" I'm at fault, I'm at fault. He lightly supported my arms, then something heavy settled over my shoulders, an embroidered cloak. I looked up. Those familiar brows, those familiar eyes, that familiar smile filled my vision. Jules, you're finally here, he said. The Liangzhou governor Marcus Gu was gravely ill, so Victor received me in his stead. On the surface, it seemed proper enough, and yet I felt uneasy. Marcus Gu was Adrian's eye in Liangzhou. He was also a blade hanging over Prince Chi's head. Back then, Victor didn't get along with his father, Prince Huge, so he was tossed out to remote Liangzhou to wait for death. Later, Prince Huge colluded with the enemy and rebelled. On the mid-autumn night, he coordinated with forces inside, bathed the capital city in blood, and slaughtered everyone until only Adrian was left. After that, Prince Huge was driven back to Liangzhou, and then his own son cut off his head. Victor delivered Prince Huge's head to Adrian and led the rebel army to surrender. Adrian didn't believe him at all and wanted him executed on the spot, but the Grand Tutor stopped him. So it was common knowledge. The Emperor and Prince Chi looked like harmonious brothers in public, but in private, each wanted the other dead. That day, I refused Prince Chi's invitation and insisted on staying at the Relay Lodge. After I washed and changed, Rowan came in. My lord, the governor's residence is heavily guarded. I couldn't get in, Silas couldn't either. Rowan was in the open, Silas in the shadows, and neither of them could get in. I let out a sudden laugh. When Victor was made Prince Chi, he had a residence in his fief. But the garrison all answered to the governor. He was watched wherever he went. More, it was less protection than house arrest. According to the report Marcus Gu sent back to the capital city a month ago, Prince Chi had been obedient and well-behaved, but the reality didn't match. Today, when Prince Chi greeted me, the officials of Liangzhou were all deferential and compliant. That couldn't have begun only a month ago. What a tidy trick. Deceiving those above while silencing those below. Conflict in the western frontier? An imperial command to negotiate peace? So that was what this was. Like Jiangxia fishing. Waiting for the right catch. Julian N., you really did deliver yourself like a fat duck right to the door. I glanced at the round moon outside and thought of Adrian. The board in the capital must already be set. What was he doing right now? That day at the 10-mile pavilion, he called me Jules. Adrian, do you truly know nothing at all? Early the next morning, my cold flared again. I couldn't stop coughing, and my head swam. Prince Chi brought Dr. Liu from Liangzhou. After taking my pulse for a long time, he concluded I'd been poisoned. He said the poison had been in me for over a month. A small amount was administered daily, making it seem like nothing more than a lingering cold. I was dumbstruck. Victor's face turned iron dark. He ordered the Relay Lodge, searched from top to bottom. In the end, poison was found in Silas's luggage. Silas? Anyone else, perhaps, but he was a man the Grand Tutor had left behind years ago. I didn't believe it. I wanted to question him myself, but Silas gave no one the chance. He killed himself. A knot lodged in my chest. After taking the antidote, I slumped against the headboard, drifting in and out. I had no appetite. Prince Chi personally carried in a bowl of porridge. Jules, I know you've always valued loyalty and affection, but people are unpredictable. You have to let it go. Half my life had been spent among treacherous hearts. Of course I knew. And yet, living in this world, one always hopes there might be one or two people who let you lower your guard, people you can treat with sincerity. Jules, I know some things shouldn't be said, but Silas was your man. I think you should know. I gave a weak smile. Say what you need to say. Prince Chi handed me a box. These are the secret letters he's exchanged with the capital lately. From what I can tell, the one who ordered him to poison you is probably... He didn't finish. I did. The Emperor. Pain flickered in Victor's eyes along with a trace of sympathy and indignation. I opened the box and unfolded the letters one by one. Most were drafts Silas hadn't yet sent. They recorded my every move in painstaking detail, major matters like my dealings with local officials, and trivial ones like what I ate for dinner, how many bowls, how many times I sighed. There was only one incoming letter. It had no signature, but I recognized the handwriting at a glance. Back when we practiced calligraphy in the palace, Adrian always said my writing looked petty and delicate, like embroidery. That day, he wrapped an arm around me from behind, held my right hand, and wrote the character Shen stroke by stroke. See? Hold the brush with strength. Apply force steadily. Keep the structure in order, and you'll bring out the spirit of this character. I had practiced in secret many times. In all my handwriting, this was the only thing worth showing. The letter contained nothing substantial, but it was enough to prove Silas was Adrian's man, and that he took orders only from him. The realm was stable. The people were recovering. The Anne family's task was complete. It was time to sweep away the old, start anew, and raise his own power. When the hare is dead, the hound is boiled. Adrian, have we truly come to this? The letter slipped from my fingers and drifted to the floor. Prince Chi suddenly seized my hand. Jules, all these years you exhausted yourself to stabilize his court, and now, when the hare is dead, the hound is boiled. Was it worth it? Was it? I've heard that after Consort Jade, Lady Li and Consort Wan have also been favored in turn. I looked up at him. Victor's gaze burned. Jules, I know he has always been in your heart, but he and we are not the same. Prince Chi's preference for men was no secret. In that regard, he and I truly were the same. Jules, how I feel about you is the same as it was 7 years ago. Not a fraction has changed. His breathing grew uneven. He leaned closer, but his eyes drifted down toward me. Only then did I finally taste the afternote of that antidote. Daughter seed, morinda root, tonics for virility. What a pity, such fine medicine, wasted on me. Prince Chi, where is Marcus Gu's grave? I want to pay my respects. Prince Chi stopped half a fist away, then slowly withdrew. Perhaps he felt awkward. He stood and poured himself a cup of tea. Jules, are you blaming me? I wouldn't dare. Victor smiled and sat back down in front of me. Jules, come back to my residence with me. Plumseeker Hall is still the same. The things you used back then and the people who served you are all still there. Back during the coup, Prince Huge kidnapped me as a hostage and dragged me all the way to Western Lyon, imprisoning me in Victor's residence. He wanted the Anne family's old forces. I refused to yield, even at the cost of my life. I provoked him countless times and took more than a few lashes. Later, Victor argued with Prince Huge right in front of me. He brought me out of the dungeon and placed me in Plumseeker Hall. From late autumn into deep winter, aside from my lack of freedom, he gave me the respect a noble son should have. That New Year's Eve, he placed a red plum branch in my hands, tears glinting in his eyes. Jules, today I learned that your father's death in battle was actually ordered by my father. I nearly collapsed. He steadied me and held me close. Jules, I could have kept it from you. But I can't, because I shoved him away. Not long after, Victor cut off Prince Huge's head and became Prince Chi. He said he did it for me. Back then, in my youth, I believed him, for a time. Fine. After I pay my respects to Lord Gu, I'll go back with you, I said. Victor brightened and immediately took my hand. Good, Jules, I'll take you tomorrow. I gently eased my hand free. It didn't dampen his mood in the slightest. Marcus Gu's grave was in the back courtyard of the governor's residence. A row of plain, unremarkable mounds, large and small. The stonework looked new, likely tidied up only because I was coming. I poured half a jar of wine onto the earth and lit 3 sticks of incense. Lord Gu, you once said you would teach me to play the flute. I went out of my way to ask the emperor for a white jade flute. The right Chancellor came too late. Marcus Gu's elderly mother in the capital was over 80. Before I left, she entrusted me with many things. Large bundles for her son, smaller ones for his grandsons and granddaughters. I had met Marcus Gu's youngest son. Clever and charming, already speaking with surprising poise. I took out the jade flute and raised it gently to my lips. Someone beside me tried to stop me, but Prince Chi held them back. A flute song swept away the chill among winter plums. In the western moonlight, osmanthus bloomed. The sound carried out of the governor's residence. It startled the pigeon flock in the bamboo grove outside. They scattered, flying toward the city outskirts. Plumseeker Hall truly looked exactly the same as it had back then. On the table lay the painting I had once left half-finished. Peach blossoms everywhere. Beside it, the brushes and ink were full and rich, as if waiting. For a moment I felt as though time had folded in on itself. Jules, stay here with peace of mind. When do you leave? I asked. He didn't hide it. The army is already gathered outside. We march tomorrow. Don't worry, at most a month, and I'll come to take you back to the capital. By then, heaven and earth would have changed, a dynasty replaced. So he was fully prepared and certain. Victor, I said, sitting down and lifting the brush, when you come to take me, will it be into the inner palace or into court? Prince Chi froze, then laughed. Jules, you're joking. The inner palace is for women. You are the dying empire's right chancellor. When the time comes, you'll be Anne Fioft, second only to one, above 10,000. You'll rule the realm with me. I nodded. Understood. He meant to keep it hidden, and when the time came, everyone in this courtyard would likely have to die. But that was hardly an obstacle. He dared to cut down his own father. I kept painting. Prince Chi hurried out. By the time I finished, it was dark. Rowan entered. I blew lightly over the painting. Ready? Rowan said. Everything is arranged. We're only waiting for your signal. I hung the painting on the wall and picked up the white jade flute. Let's go. In the painting, it was the warmth of early spring, a peach tree in full bloom. A boy sat on its branch. Below, a girl in pink stood with a butterfly pendant chiming at her waist. A spring breeze passed. Petals fell in a soft rush. They looked at each other and smiled. The late autumn night was thick, yet Liangshan Gorge was packed with troops. At first light, black banners rose before the ranks, but before the flags could catch the wind, an arrow tore through the air. The banner crashed down. A thunderous roar erupted, jolting awake the rebels in the gorge who hadn't yet formed up. From the heights, arrows rained down, boulders rolled and smashed, figures surged out along the ridges and through the woods, charging into the valley. The ones fighting the rebels to the death were the Yanber, Anne family's army from years past. I had ridden west, gathering scattered commanders one by one. I hadn't realized there were so many, so Adrian, I understand you. With such a blade at your back, of course you feared me. Even removing me would be reasonable. A rider in red armor plunged into the thick of it. The long spear that hadn't tasted blood in years felt unfamiliar, but it didn't slow my charge. When Prince Chi saw me, disbelief filled his eyes. He slashed down the man beside him. Jules, why? In what way am I inferior to him? I smiled at him. In every way. To be fair, Adrian isn't any better. He never behaves himself. But compared to a hypocritical, cold-blooded man on the throne, I can tolerate Adrian's foul habits. Prince Chi threw back his head and laughed. You're too foolish. Look around you. How long do you think he'll let a man who can rebel at any time stay alive? I wanted to know too. So Adrian, how long do you plan to let me live? The Grand Tutor's lesson. Once the court is stable, Julie and Anne can be killed. Have you forgotten? Jules, he's been using you all along. Don't you know that? My face turned cold. I spun my spear. Victor, compared to his use of me, your hypocrisy makes me sick. I surged forward with my spear. Prince Chi raised his blade to meet me at once. After dozens of exchanges, my strength began to fail. Prince Chi only grew fiercer. Little beast, I schemed for you with all my heart, and you dare ruin my great cause. I fell to the ground. His blade aimed straight at my heart, and in that instant, I understood. So this was what Adrian had been waiting for. Prince Chi and I would slaughter each other. Both factions wiped clean. The realm would have lasting peace. That bastard really was clever. He did it well. But Adrian, I still wanted to die by your hand. Then you would live in guilt, grieving day and night, unable to eat or sleep. Down in the ground, I'd feel a little less angry. Yes, I'm that petty. I've never changed. Prince Chi's blade was knocked aside by an arrow, then another arrow pierced his chest. He stared in disbelief and died right in front of me, eyes wide open. I turned and saw Adrian 100 paces away, in full armor. He raised his bow, knocked an arrow, and aimed at me from afar. As I stared at the arrowhead, I remembered how he used to draw a bow. We were young then. It was a spring palace banquet, and I entered the palace with my father. Bored by the feast, I slipped away to play in the imperial garden. A pink butterfly led me beneath a peach blossom tree. It vanished in the blink of an eye among the blossoms. When I looked up, I saw Adrian asleep in the branches. Back then, I was obsessed with tales of ghosts and spirits. I couldn't help suspecting he was some demon, transformed from that butterfly. The noise of my escape startled the boy in the tree. Adrian jumped down, irritation on his face. Where did this stupid servant come from, disturbing my good dream? He shook petals from his clothes and glanced at me. First he froze, then he smiled. Huh? Not from the palace? Who are you? You're really good looking. My father always praised my looks, but I thought Adrian looked even better. Then he excitedly dragged me back to the banquet and brought me before the late empress. Mother, look at this little sister. Isn't she pretty? When I grow up, can I marry her? The late empress had been chatting with ministers' wives. Hearing that, she didn't get angry at all. She looked at me and laughed. The other ladies laughed too. Adrian didn't understand. The Duchess of Qi tried to explain, but the late empress stopped her. Fine. If you win the prize at the riding and archery grounds later, I'll consider it. Adrian ran off delighted. I was anxious and furious, trying to chase him, but the late empress held me down. Adrian was terrible at his studies, but his riding and archery were truly superb. When he drew a bow, all his mischief vanished. Focused and intent, he hit the center again and again. When I returned home that day, my father scolded me, then confined me. I don't know when Adrian was told I was male. I don't know what madness seized him after he humiliated himself so thoroughly. I only know that 3 years later, when I entered the palace as a study companion, the fury in his eyes was enough to make him want to butcher me on the spot. When that arrow left the bowstring, I thought, if I died, the truth about my identity would no longer be hidden. His stunned expression would be priceless. Too bad I wouldn't see it. Adrian rode toward me. I smiled at him and closed my eyes, but the death I expected didn't come. I opened my eyes and saw a rebel collapse beside me, struck by the arrow. Adrian sat his horse and looked down at me coldly. Jules, he said, do you want to die that badly? With the Northern Frontier Army's support, the rebels were cut to pieces. The uprising hadn't even managed to raise its banner out of the gorge before it was crushed. Inside the command tent, Adrian's face was dark as still water. I knelt below and silently counted sheep. You want to die that badly? Who wanted to die? The situation had forced my hand. Adrian gave a short laugh. Fine, kill you. And while I'm at it, absorb those wild soldiers outside. Then the realm is at peace. Julian Anne sacrifices himself for the nation. What a model minister. I lowered my head and said nothing. Spare me the sarcasm. I'd never wanted to be a model minister. You want to be a worthy minister, but I don't want to be a wise ruler, Adrian said. He strode over, seized me by the collar, and yanked me up, staring straight into my face. Julian Anne, take a guess. Why didn't I kill you? Could I not guess? I turned my head away, but Adrian wouldn't allow it. One hand pinned my shoulder, the other tilted my chin up, forcing me to look at him. Speak, he said, or I'll kill the men outside. You wouldn't dare. Why wouldn't I? You moved troops without permission. They followed you to Western Lyon in secret. They're no different from rebels. I can have them all executed any time. Panic surged through me. Adrian, have you no shame? They came with me to put down a rebellion. I don't, Adrian snapped. I never wanted to be emperor in the first place. Why do they get to decide? Julian, and why do you get to arrange everything for me? They never asked whether I wanted the throne. They just shoved me onto it, and you never asked whether I wanted this realm. You were already rushing to die to prove your resolve. Julian Anne, I'm sick of it. I'm done. Now I was angry. At a time like this, he was throwing a childish tantrum? Adrian, the late emperor. I didn't get to finish, because that madman sealed my mouth shut. With his lips, a cool touch covered mine. My mind split like thunder. I went rigid from head to toe. His lips, his whole body, trembled faintly. There was ferocity in him, but also a cautious, tentative testing. After that brief attempt, he pulled back slightly to look at me. Then, as if afraid I might push him away, he quickly wrapped his arms around me. Jules, if you dare die, I'll become a tyrant for you to see. After a long pause, he said again, Jules, I like you. I'm finished. The one I like is a man, and I've nearly gone mad with it. My heart had never raced like this. My father used to say I'd been steady since I was small, that he rarely saw me show my feelings. I took pride in that. Hot-headed people lose their wits. It never ends well. They lose control, and then they make the wrong decisions. I'd always believed I deserved the word clear-minded. Even if Mount Tai collapsed, my expression wouldn't change. No matter how great the trouble, I could find the best way through it. And yet, in this moment, it was as if some inner demon had seized me, and I couldn't suppress it. My hands wouldn't obey. They refused to push him away. My whole body was in chaos. Only my mouth still clung to a shred of reason. Adrian, you and I are ruler and minister. How can we behave this absurdly? My mouth said. Adrian released me and looked at me, anger in his eyes. Julian, you're the one who lured me here, and now you dare refuse to take responsibility? Slander. I don't recall ever submitting a memorial asking the emperor to lead a campaign in person. I considered myself a dutiful minister. I would never do something that stupid. Adrian loosened his hold. After a moment of silence, he said slowly, Jules, I went to fetch the wine beneath the peach blossom tree. Guess what I saw? My heart lurched, and what composure I had left shattered. I turned away, giving him my back. Behind me came a soft laugh, and a voice that sounded almost distant. That spring banquet in the palace, when we first met. I fell for you at first sight, but mistook you for a girl. I even gave you a jade pendant as a token of love. Do you remember? I didn't have amnesia. Of course I remembered. I lowered my gaze to the tips of my shoes. Back then, the young Adrian had been teased by the late empress. He thought that if he won, he'd truly be able to marry me someday. So he fired 20 arrows. Not one missed. The hall erupted in cheers. Sweat drenched his hair, but his face shone with joy. Holding up a butterfly-shaped jade pendant in both hands, he walked over to me. Good sister, I won this myself. I'm giving it to you. Let it be our token, all right? Promise me you won't marry anyone else when you grow up. Wait for me, I'll come marry you. The late empress slapped the armrest and laughed until she could barely sit upright. The noble ladies covered their mouths, afraid to laugh out loud. I held the pendant and didn't dare look at him, yet my mind was full of the scene from earlier, him leaping down from a tree as peach blossoms whirled through the air. Maybe I pitied that boy for being toyed with. Somehow in my heart, I quietly answered, All right. Adrian circled around to stand in front of me. He pulled out the pendant I'd buried beneath the tree and shook it. Jules, didn't you say this pendant was lost long ago? Later, when I entered the palace as his study companion, Adrian once forced me to hand over the pendant that had humiliated him. I told him I had no idea where I'd thrown it. I'd prided myself on being composed for half my life, and I rarely blushed, but now my ears burned, and my face couldn't have been much better. Like a child caught stealing sweets. This bastard had found my secret. I knew he wouldn't let it go. I was mortified and furious. Adrian chuckled again, then stepped forward, closing in on me once more. Jules, you like me. Those words struck my ears like a spell. My heart shuddered. Then the emotions I'd held in check for so many years suddenly broke loose, like a wild horse snapping its reins. I didn't move. I let the storm of feeling gnaw away the last of my reason. Joy, anger, sorrow, delight, everything surged through me. In the end, only bitter grief remained. My eyes grew wet. Jules. Adrian gently lifted my face. I'm sorry. I understood too late. My lips parted. A tear slid from the corner of my eye, but before it could reach my cheek, Adrian kissed it away. His cool lips traced my cheek again to the corner of my mouth, again and again, endlessly tender. Julian had devoted himself to the Dian Empire for many years. He'd never dared relax, never calmly followed his own heart. Adrian was right. No one had the right to decide for someone else. The shackles on my back, hadn't I buckled them on myself? Fine. Even if only for a moment, I would choose for myself. I would choose him. I slipped an arm around his waist and kissed him back. Clumsy at first. It only seemed to encourage him. His desire flared hotter, guiding me deeper into the kiss. I didn't know how long it lasted. My head grew hazy, my body went weak. In the end, I could only cling to him. Adrian's breathing turned heavy by my ear. Only when his hand slid up from my waist did my reason finally stagger back. I stopped and opened my eyes. Adrian's gaze was fever-bright with affection, his chest rising and falling. We couldn't go any further. I pulled back slightly. You still haven't said, why did you come to Western Ling? Adrian smiled. I meant to spar with them a few more days. But after I saw that pendant, I couldn't wait another moment. I cursed my own mistake. It really was that pendant that caused trouble. Is everything taken care of? What needed handling has been handled. Some things aren't urgent. When you go back, we'll deal with them together. I nodded, but my thoughts were drifting. Could I still return to court? And once I did, how was I supposed to face him? I had no answers. Adrian went on, as if talking to himself. That Ethan, I don't know where Victor dug him up. Watching him mimic you made my blood boil. And he even dared. I shot him a look. Adrian stopped, coughed, then continued. Anyway, I cut him down with one strike. I was suspicious, but Adrian refused to explain. Outside, the night watch drum urged people home. I looked at the candlelight and prepared to take my leave. But Adrian wouldn't have it. He tugged me onto his lap, wrapped his arms around me, and refused to let go. "Jules, can you not leave tonight?" I didn't move. "Aren't you afraid someone outside will notice something?" Adrian snorted. "Let's see who dares say a word." "Jules, Prince Chi could tell from all the way out in Western Liang. How long do you think we can hide it?" That truly was a problem. I believed I could hide it, endure it. But the man in front of me, when he went mad, he didn't care about anything. "I'll just be a foolish emperor. You can be a wicked minister. I'm gonna walk in and out with you at my side." Listen to him. Adrian's temper rose as he spoke. "They shoved me onto this throne. Every day I read endless memorials, and I still have to play games with those old fossils. I'm exhausted to death. I just like a man. So what?" That in itself was fine. The only issue was that the man he liked happened to be the right chancellor of the dying empire. If anyone doesn't like it, I'll stop being emperor and let him do it. Nonsense. I'd never thought we'd reach a day like this. So for a moment I had no solution. But did he truly like men? Or did he only think he liked men because I was a man? That was the question. Since I liked him, I had no intention of hiding it anymore. It was time to find a chance to tell him. Just now, he'd asked me to stay tonight. If I stayed and things grew heated later, it would be hard not to reveal the truth. Then I could simply go along with it. It wasn't impossible. I didn't know how he would react. To my surprise, I found myself looking forward to it. While I was thinking, Adrian suddenly seemed to remember something. He actually pushed me away and turned awkward. "Well, I thought about it. You should go back first. Let me prepare and then, My brow furrowed with suspicion. Prepare what? Men really were fickle. When the emperor personally led the northern frontier army to suppress the rebellion, it naturally caused an uproar. Prince Chi truly covered the sky with one hand. He executed the provincial governor, detained officials' families as leverage, and placed Western Liang's officials under investigation. For a time, everything was thrown into turmoil. Fortunately, Adrian had made arrangements early. New officials took their posts and new policies were pushed through, including 3 years of tax relief to steady the people. Western Liang soon settled. With the ruler away from the capital city for long, change was bound to brew. Adrian returned to the capital first. I stayed in Western Liang another half-month. Only after I'd arranged everything properly did I return. But when I came back to the palace to see him, I found he wasn't there. What? He went to Western Liang once, and now his heart had gone wild? He'd gotten addicted to traveling incognito? I was about to return to the Chancellor's residence when a young eunuch I didn't recognize rushed out of nowhere and bumped into me. He wasn't very old, but he had nerve. He knelt calmly and announced himself. "I serve in your room hall. Lately the emperor enjoys folk tunes, so Consort Jade specially invited a successor of the Liu ballads into the palace. Consort Jade ordered me to see if the emperor has finished court. Folk tunes. A successor of the Liu ballads? Oh, I understood. Someone had come to tip me off and curry favor." I smiled. Consort Jade was clever. This time, Prince Chi had implicated many. Many concubines in the palace were removed. Aside from Consort Jade, only 2 ladies remained. I wondered whether those old men had been forcing him to choose new consorts lately. I left the palace, changed into plain clothes, and went straight to Riverfront Street. There were many places in the capital to listen to tunes, but I happened to know which one Adrian favored. Southwind House looked the same as ever. Jasper startled when he saw me, but he quickly understood why I'd come and hurried to lead me inside. Leo's door was shut tight. Standing outside, I could hear a voice from within. "Sir, if you do it like that, it will hurt." In an instant, anger rushed to my head. I kicked the door open. The 2 inside turned at the same time to look at me. Adrian was shocked. He quickly covered whatever was on the table and stood up. "Jules, why are you here? Didn't you say you needed a few more days?" Leo also rose in a panic and bowed to me. I stared at them, my face dark. When I entered, they'd been sitting at the table, fully dressed. Then what were they panicking for? My gaze locked on the cloth covering the table. "What are you doing? What is that?" "Jules, don't." I strode over and yanked the cloth away. Adrian tried to stop me, but he was too late. His face went pale. I froze at what lay on the table. Then my ears slowly began to burn. Leo was frantic. He snapped shut a book that should never see daylight and stuffed several small bottles of who knew what into his sleeve. "You two take your time catching up. I'll take my leave. I'll take my leave." Leo fled, thoughtfully closing the door behind him. That left only Adrian and me, trapped in awkward silence. After a long moment, Adrian suddenly laughed. My face grew even hotter. "Jules, did you come to catch me cheating?" "Catch you cheating, my ass." "Jules, I'm learning all this for your sake. Otherwise, you'll suffer later." I stared at an ant-hole on the floor and thought that if I tried hard enough, I might crawl into it. "Why should I be the one to suffer?" I shot back. I realized that once you lose enough face, your skin naturally thickens. Under Adrian's baffled gaze, I straightened my back. Holding back a grin, I said with a dark face, "Do I look like someone who'd be the one underneath?" "I'm the one on top." Adrian's pupils trembled. He stood there, stunned. His expression was beyond complicated. He paced back and forth, mind in knots, shocked, flustered, speechless. His legs even seemed to shake. I had to fight not to laugh out loud. "Jules," his voice trembled. "Jules, let's discuss this again, all right?" I stepped forward, lifted his chin, and leaned in with full confidence. "No discussion." Adrian's legs went weak. "No, Jules. Think again. I'm the Emperor, at least." "Then forget it." I turned to leave. Adrian grabbed my sleeve. He looked as if he'd made a tremendous decision, his face grim. "Don't go. How about we take turns?" I turned back to look at him. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I burst out laughing. Adrian let out a long breath, then hugged me with an aggrieved look. "Jules, you scared me to death." "It's my fault. I shouldn't have come here without telling you." I hugged him back. "Adrian, I missed you." He held me tighter. He was the Emperor. He could have had the whole world, beauties filling the palace. But today he'd come here for me. I'd made my decision. I was certain, just not here. "Adrian, tonight, can you come to my residence?" His body stiffened, but he soon nodded against my shoulder. "Okay." At the Chancellor's residence, I sat before the mirror. Hazel carefully dried my hair with a towel. She was about to pin it up with a jade hairpin when I raised a hand. "Hazel, what hairstyle has been popular in the capital lately?" "It's called cloud chasing the moon, isn't it? You're good with your hands. Help me do it." Hazel froze for a long moment. Once she understood, she immediately got to work. She loosened my hair again and parted it to both sides, braided it into shape, then lifted it up and fixed it with a butterfly clasp, leaving it to fall loosely down my back. "And clothes?" Hazel brightened, not waiting for further instruction. She turned and rummaged through the wardrobe. After a while, she returned holding a bundle of red. "This is new clothing the madam left back then. The style is a little old, but you'll look beautiful in it." I didn't refuse. I let her dress me piece by piece. After a long fussing, she pulled me to the mirror. In the mirror, the person wore a floor-length red gown. Dark butterfly patterns shimmered across it. In the red candlelight, the figure looked almost ethereal. I leaned closer. My black hair was arranged loosely. My brows and eyes were like distant mountains. My lips brushed with the faintest cherry pink. It was indeed beautiful. Unlike ordinary women, there was still a touch of sharpness to my features. It suited the red. I watched with fresh curiosity. Hazel began to cry beside me. I smiled. "What is it? Is it that frightening for the Chancellor to put on women's clothes?" Hazel shook her head. "Miss, you're beautiful. Truly too beautiful. But I couldn't wear women's clothes openly. I knew she felt wronged for me, yet I didn't feel wronged at all. Hazel, fairness matters. Look at the women in this world, who lives as freely as I do. It couldn't all fall to me, could it?" Hazel thought about it and stopped crying. Rowan came to report that the Emperor had arrived. Hazel panicked at once. She raised a hand to tear out the pins and tug at my clothes, but I stopped her. "Do you remember what I gave you before? Go prepare it." Hazel shuddered and nearly collapsed. Adrian arrived in plain clothes, pleased as could be. He carried a jar of fine wine in his hand and a sandalwood box tucked inside his robes. He knew the North Study like the back of his hand. He opened the door and stopped short in surprise. Rowan and Hazel stood before him, one on each side, each holding a tray, their faces dark as they lowered their heads in silence. "You scared me to death," Adrian looked past them into the room. "What are you doing? Where's your master?" Behind the screen, I slowly sank to my knees. "Your Majesty," I caught myself and said instead. "Adrian, punish me for deceiving you." Adrian frowned and stood there for a moment. Rack then lifted the white cloth covering the two trays. One held poisoned wine, the other held a white silk cord. Adrian sighed. "I knew it wouldn't go smoothly. Go on, what trick are you playing now?" It made me feel rather embarrassed. I didn't want to play tricks, but I had to keep everyone in this house alive. I'd already rehearsed the words in my head. A woman, for the sake of the nation, for the sake of supporting the imperial house, endured humiliation and disguised herself as a man. She entered the court, aided her ruler, sacrificed herself alone to fulfill the whole Dayang Empire. After that heap of pretty words, it might not move heaven and earth, but at least he would spare my entire household from death. After years as Chancellor, I didn't dare boast of anything else, but my tongue was among the sharpest in the Dayang Empire. I cleared my throat and began to summon the proper emotion, frowning. "Adrian, thinking back to those years, when the former emperor passed away suddenly, the court and the realm, huh?" Before I could even get going, this man suddenly strode straight up to me. So he stood and I knelt, staring at each other. Adrian looked me up and down, his face filled with mixed emotions, confusion, disbelief, and utter impropriety. I watched him spin in place several times. Then he shoved Rowan and Hazel, both utterly stunned, out the door and slammed it shut. "Get up." He yanked me to my feet, then pointed at my nose and scolded me like iron that refused to become steel. "You're the Chancellor of a nation, and yet you dress in women's clothes? Fine, I can understand that, but at least avoid the servants. If word gets out, you'll ruin the Marquis' household's reputation." It took me a long time to close my mouth. Oh, he still didn't understand. I turned around. "Adrian, look again." Was I that bad at being a woman? How could he not tell? Adrian looked at me. The tips of his ears slowly reddened. "It's beautiful. But I like you. It has nothing to do with whether you're male or female. You don't have to do this." My heart stirred. "Truly? Of course. Still, the fact that you went to such trouble for me makes me very happy." As he spoke, he smiled, and for a moment he looked almost boyishly innocent. My heart softened, and I smiled too. All those schemes and strategies, all that eloquence. Forget it. Any calculation in this world became worthless before the pull of desire in this moment. Besides, hadn't I long since been certain he would never truly punish me? Leaning on his affection, for the first time in my life, I understood what it meant to be fearless, because you have something to rely on. I clutched his sleeve, lowering my voice. "Adrian, there's something I have to tell you. Can you not blame me?" Adrian stared at me, eyes wide. "Okay, I won't blame you. He really did have the makings of a foolish emperor." I smiled. "Do you like me like this?" He nodded on instinct, then shook his head at once. "Don't misunderstand. I truly don't care if it's male or female. You look good in anything." I took his hand and placed it at my waist. Leaning to his ear, I whispered, "Last time, didn't you say you wanted me to take off my clothes so you could verify me?" "Adrian, take them off." His hand trembled faintly at my waist. I lifted my arms and looped them around his neck. In the blink of an eye, the world spun. He swept me up and carried me to the couch. But only moments later, Adrian rolled off the couch. He was so furious he could barely speak. He pointed at me and said he'd have my head cut off. Men really were fickle. "Julian, you liar. Liar." I propped my cheek on one hand and lounged on the couch, watching him pace the room. "You're actually a woman? No wonder I couldn't sleep. No wonder I worried myself sick. And I even went to that Southwind house. Jules, I'll have someone cut your head off, believe it or not." Adrian opened the redwood box and took out a pair of jade hairpins. I was polishing these with my own hands. He was about to smash them. I hurried off the couch to snatch them away, then poured him a cup of tea. "It's my fault. I was wrong. If you want to cut off my head, that would be fair. Here, drink some tea. Don't make yourself sick with anger." "I won't drink, Julian. Back then I was mocked for years by my mother and all those officials' wives. Were you laughing at me too?" I panicked. No, I was happy too. Otherwise I wouldn't have kept that pendant all this time. Adrian didn't speak, but his expression eased a little. I steeled myself and sat on his lap, cupping his face. Adrian, I knew you never cared for power, yet you were forced onto the throne. And hiding that I was a woman was never what I wanted either. Neither of us got to choose our own lives. I understand how you feel, and I know your helplessness. So, Adrian, can you try to understand me too? Adrian still kept his face dark and said nothing. I slid off him and stood. Fine. I prepared to die long ago. The poisoned wine and the white corridor outside. Say the word, and I won't hesitate. I turned as if to leave. I'd only taken 2 steps when he grabbed me. Adrian hugged me from behind and murmured at my ear, "You know I can't bear it. Why say such cruel things? You hid it from me for so many years. I even thought I liked men. And you won't even let me vent?" I turned and wrapped my arms around his waist. "Adrian, I know I was wrong. Scold me, I'll listen." He sighed. "Jules, I'm just angry you didn't trust me." I rose on tiptoe and kissed his cheek. "I won't do it again." Adrian lowered his head and kissed me, fierce and relentless, as if pressing all his resentment into it. Dominating, merciless. A moment later, my hairpins were loose and my hair in disarray. His breathing was unsteady, yet he shoved me away again. "No, I have to return to the palace." "Me? I'm half undressed and you're leaving. What is this supposed to mean?" Adrian carefully fastened my clothes, his eyes bright. "Before, it was unavoidable. But now? Jules, I'm going to worship the ancestors and announce it to the world. I will welcome you into the palace in splendid robes and a phoenix carriage." Half a month later, the Minister of Rights, Edmund, suddenly submitted a memorial asking to restore the name of the second daughter of the Anne family, Evelyn, who had been lost outside the family long ago. The memorial said that in those years when the Marquis and his wife were stationed in the northern frontier, the Marchioness went into difficult labor while pursuing enemy raiders. She gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. But the enemy was hard to shake off, so they entrusted the baby girl to villagers to raise. This led to the Marquis's daughter being lost outside, and only now was she found. After a long stream of nonsense, I'd gained a younger sister. I'd thought the script would be that I fell ill, faked my death, then returned to being a woman under a new identity, and he would take me into the inner palace. Instead, I gained one more identity. Julian still existed, and now there was also Evelyn. I threw the imperial edict in Adrian's face. A younger sister lost outside? Who would believe that? The court was full of old monsters who'd cultivated for centuries. They all knew me well. Sooner or later, it would fall apart. Adrian popped a grape into his mouth and drawled, "I don't care if they believe it or not. Let's see who dares say something." I thought, "Then you still don't know how vicious those censors are." Adrian added, "Or would you rather stay in the inner palace every day doing embroidery?" I stood up and picked the edict back up. Come to think of it, more than half of those censors were my own people. It wasn't impossible. The Imperial Astronomical Bureau set the wedding 3 months later. They said it was an auspicious day that came once in 100 years. In the spring of year 357 of the Dayang Empire, the emperor and empress were wed. On that day, peach blossoms bloomed across the city. Countless golden butterflies circled the walls. They were taken as a lucky omen. The entire court offered congratulations, and the people's hearts were won.